Commercial eventually.
Hey everyone, welcome to the Craft Beer Professionals 2025 Spring Virtual Conference. Small Batch Standard is pumped to be the day one sponsor, and we're even more excited to help you generate more profit. Right now, today, it has never been harder to generate profit in the craft brewing industry. And here's why. If these two graphs don't paint a clear picture of what's happening in craft today, I don't know what will. In order to help you navigate this, we have put something together just for you. We call it the Small Batch Standard Profit Plays. These are excerpts from our profit playbook and include our top strategies for boosting profit at your brewery. And because you're here today, you get those plays for free. So head over to sbstandard.com/CBP to claim your copy. Thanks for being here and enjoy the talk.
Hello, everyone, and welcome to the final session of day one of the CBP Spring Virtual Conference. Huge thanks to Small Batch Standard and InTouch Labels for their support. Their help allows CBP to continue offering events like this that are 100% free and accessible to all. So everyone, yesterday I took my 5-year-old to the circus for the first time. It had been years since I've watched the show, and I gotta say, it's a little bit different without the animals. Anybody seen it without the animals? Show of hands. Not yet. So for me, and perhaps many of you, the elephants and tigers and such were a key component to the circus experience. Yet, even without the animals, it was a pretty good time. Was it different? Absolutely. Did I enjoy it as much? I don't know about that. However, as the world evolves, we have to as well. The taproom is kind of like a three-ring circus. In addition to beer, you have to have a memorable atmosphere, engaging staff. There's so much to it. So today, we're joined by a panel to talk about how to create memorable taproom spaces. And let's meet our guest. And Erica, you two are to the right of me. You get to go first.
Hi, my name's Erica Teague. I'm the owner and founder of Cactus Brewing Co. We're a little small barrel, 5-barrel brewery in the middle of nowhere, Atkins, Texas.
Awesome, Erica. Well, thank you for being here. And I hope to see you in person again before too long.
Thanks for having me.
Michael, you're up.
All right. Hi there, everyone. My name is Michael Varda. I'm the founder of Craft Beer Advisory Services. We're a market research and analytics firm specifically dedicated to craft beer. What that means is we're regularly doing research and insights on consumer behavior, consumer trends, what people want, and how to bring people back.
And we partner with Michael and Craft Beer Advisory Services for the Workplace Satisfaction Survey. We've done this for quite a few years now. If you haven't already, we would love your feedback. We're presenting the findings on April 8th. So drop that link in the chat. Would love everybody's feedback. Bronywn, your turn.
Hi, everybody. My name is Bronywn Vogler. I'm from Greater Good in Worcester, Massachusetts. I'm one of the brewery sales representatives. So I'm on the road a lot, and I also work behind the bar a couple days a week as well.
Well, thanks for joining us again, Bronywn. I know we had talked earlier. It's been maybe a couple of years since you joined Michael on a past panel.
Yes, 3 years, I want to say, maybe.
Oh my gosh, time, where does it go? I still feel like we're closer to 2020 than we are 2026.
Yeah.
So Bronywn, while I have you, I'm curious. I'd love to hear the last place you went outside of, let's say, beer industry, where you just felt truly comfortable, welcomed, and just were excited to come back. What made that space special for you?
So this actually just happened really recently. I don't get out much being a parent and being on the road. I just kind of like to, once I'm home. But I went out with a friend for a birthday dinner, and Worcester has a really cool spot called the Public Market, where there's maybe 20 or so different sort of small brick and mortar little restaurants and whatnot. And we went to one that was in there, and I just had the best time. It was a Korean restaurant. They have amazing drinks, good food, very, very small and intimate, just a little bar. So you just kind of, by just the space itself, you're just very much immersed in the whole space, and just sort of just constant chatting with the bartenders, and it was just a fun atmosphere. There was just two of us, so it really just sort of enhanced the whole experience. Just I don't know, just feeling like the space was ours, I think.
No, I love that. I'm sure we'll dive deeper into a lot of those themes in today's conversation. Now, Erica, I know you said you're in the middle of nowhere, Atkins, Texas, but is there anywhere else you can go for that type of an experience? I'd love to hear an example.
Yeah, my husband and I mean, at the end of the day, we're patrons too. We find ourselves having to drive in town, which is about it's a 20-minute drive to get into the core of the restaurants. I mean, we have some small stuff around here, but a lot of the places that we frequently like to go to, for us, it's about not just a first experience. I wouldn't say I have just a core of a one-time experience, but multiple experiences. It's not just about going the first time. We crave service. We crave the feeling of connecting with artwork. In a lot of those places, you find a little bit of that kind of hipster vibe, as well as a vibe that we resonate with here and that we are projecting. So a lot of that we see in town. We see some of it, a few of them around here, but we connect really into the core of San Antonio and the experience it shares and how we connect with that and what we can project as owners when we're in that patron perspective.
And I love going to other places for the first time, just going in with no expectations and having that first time experience, because it makes you really think about what someone experienced for the first time when they come to your tap room.
Mm-hmm. On the second time, so you go the first time and you're like, okay, this was awesome, but then you got to really tone in and just like repeat it. So it's like, okay, I had a great time the first time, now it's the second time, and making sure you're creating that consistency within the experience. And that's what we love, because we just know that we're gonna get consistency somewhere, and those are the places that we constantly frequent and what we project here.
Now, Michael, I know you have a lot of data on like what's creating these return visits, but for you personally, give us an example.
Yeah, it's a great question. And based in Richmond, Virginia, we're pretty spoiled with the food and drink scene. One experience that stands out to me, it was date night about 2 or 3 months ago. Savannah and I went to a place called the Wine Whisperer, and it is a boutique wine shop and bistro. And it really only seats probably about 10 folks, and reservations can be a little hard to come by. When you sit down, folks, the staff will start asking you if one, have you been here before, making that connection, and number two, what kind of wine are you looking to try? And for someone like me, I enjoy wine, but I don't drink a lot of wine. I don't really know beyond like, oh, I like reds, I like whites, or whatever it might be. And we went through this. So I was just getting a little bit of info, but we went through a whole questionnaire of, do you like dark chocolate? Do you like milk chocolate? Do you like this food? Do you like that food? And then she curated a flight of wine and then recommended 3 of their seasonal dishes as like small plates. And you're really having an experience. You're building a connection with that person. And the wines you're almost like pre-programmed to enjoy it because you said, oh, well, I like this. And then she hands it in front of you and says like, oh, you said you like strawberries and this is from France. And there's all these different elements where she's including me in my selection. And, service was incredible. And then obviously the wine was lovely and the food was top notch. So it was a special time.
So for me, sometimes when I go and have an amazing experience, whether at a tap room or elsewhere, often I forget about the beer. I forget about the food because everything else is just equally as an amazing time when I'm there. So Michael, was there a wine that stood out to you that you'll remember to order next time?
It's a funny thing, I honestly couldn't even tell you one wine that I had. I couldn't tell you which ones that I had, they were all great. And I think that goes to what we're going to be talking a lot about today, where it gets so far beyond liquid very quickly.
Yeah. So Michael, I want to pick on you to start this one. Like, what is the consumer like these days? Who's coming to breweries? Who should we be mindful of? Who should we be trying to attract?
Yeah. So we did a report earlier this quarter about how the consumer base is changing. And we look at it both with respect to gender and with respect to habits. When we look at habits, I'm going to draw a quick picture of the 3 buckets that I'll talk about briefly: social gatherers, foodies, and beer geeks. Beer geeks are remaining constant. They're not going up, they're not going down. Social gatherers, however, with taproom visits, they are increasing and projected to continue to increase into 2027. Foodies share that particular growth trajectory just at a lesser extent than the social drinkers. Those social gatherers, social drinkers are making up over 50% of all taproom visitors in 2025 now. It was low, I shouldn't say low, mid to middle 40s, and 23, 24, it has eclipsed 50%. People are seeking those experiences. And what's also happening on the gender side, we are seeing women continue to increase, men a slight decrease. It's remaining relatively constant, but we're seeing a more diverse audience entering the tap room. And I think that goes to, again, what we're going to talk about a lot today, those engaging events, those engaging experiences. Because when we look at what men talk about versus what women talk about from their tap room visits, women are often the ones that are more often mentioning the experiences, the people beyond the beverage. That said, beverage is still number one for both men and women. That will never go away. It's not to say that women don't care about beer. Women love beer. But that piece there, statistically, we find that those growing populations, the social drinkers and the women, they're largely more driven by the people interactions and the experiences they're getting from their visits.
Good insight there, Michael. Now I want to talk to Bronywn and Erica and kind of see what your taproom audience is looking like. So I think we'll see 2 different, responses to this. So Bronywn, let's start with you. Like, who's coming to your taproom these days? I mean, your brewery, Greater Good, you only make Imperial beers, correct? Beverages.
Yes, that's correct. We're America's only Imperial brewery. So everybody here knows that everything that we brew is 8% or higher. One of our most popular beers being a 12% IPA, really nice and smooth. We also actually have a line called Sole Purpose, and we currently have 3 different brands that we brew: a session IPA, a lager, and a pilsner as well. So we're definitely have, I guess, heard the call in some ways that, we want to have folks come in and not be turned off or turned away from the fact that they're going to, be drinking 8% or 9% beers. So that's nice. We have a seltzer line as well of a couple different flavors. We just started embarking on hard tea. So I think we're definitely doing a lot of different things in that way. And we have a couple of NA options for folks as well. So including a mocktail menu that we can put together. So I think in that respect, at least when you walk in, you kind of have a little bit of something for everybody. Again, obviously never really losing sight of Greater Good and what we're there to do with the Imperial beers. That all said, I think really kind of like what Michael is talking about, like, and I'm behind the bar 2 days a week. So I like that because I get to see these interactions and these things play out as well. We have, folks who just love to come into the brewery a couple times a week to get a beer. It's kind of part of what they do. They're social folks, but they're kind of just coming in by themselves. We have a lot of schools in Worcester. And so we definitely see a bit of a college crowd has started to emerge. Professors, folks in those industries. We have a lot of biotech in Worcester as well. So we see a lot of that sort of those groups of people. And we have a really great kitchen at our brewery too. So folks love that they can come spend some time, get a nice meal or an appetizer, and just kind of hang out. There's nothing pretentious about our brewery, I would say. So it's just kind of a cool spot to just come feel good. I think, that's what people come out for. And then a lot on the weekends of just all these types of different parties and events that people call and want to reserve our space for.
We're going to dive into that very shortly. But I'm curious
that brings in an interesting groups of people, mostly folks who have never been to our space before. One person out of that group of 20 or 30 or 50 say, hey, I know this great spot. We should have this whatever party, whatever event or gathering there. And kids are like another big group of folks who are getting into
Everyone, I promise we won't touch on kids too much today. No kids' birthday parties yet.
But I think just families feeling like here's a safe, responsible place I can bring my family and feel good about it. And we've been seeing that's definitely something that you can't not pay attention to.
No, great thoughts there, Bron. We'll dive more into that shortly. But Erica, once again, you're in the middle of nowhere. So who's coming to your spot? Because it looks awesome on the website, but tell us a little bit more about your audience. Because one thing unique is you're not open all the time. Is that correct?
No, we are only open 6 days a month. So we have public and private openings. So the first and third weekends of the month, we are open to the public. And then we say the second, fourth, and sometimes fifth weekends of the month, we are open privately. We're in the middle of nowhere. We consider ourselves a event-based destination brewery. So I don't have just the typical tourist crowd that can just come to our place and enjoy our place off of the street. We have to really work to build engagement and really hyping up this place to draw a large crowd. I would say our audience, in terms of patronage, would be, it's diversity. You would think being in the middle of nowhere, it's kind of just this little podunk little brewery, but actually it's one of the most diverse places I have been to locally, and even just a good radius of San Antonio. You get to enjoy a place next to all walks of life, all ages. So we really have created a space that is truly welcoming, and just to feel loved by everybody. In terms of beer, we really had to focus in on what our consumer wants. I have a real estate background, so really really dove into demographics and understanding what this local demographic is. And they want lagers. San Antonio is just lager city. We have over 24 beers on tap. We have a lot of small batch tanks we really get to play with. But at the end of the day, we have to understand who is coming to our brewery and what it is that they want, and who controls those pocketbooks. And sometimes it's beer drinkers, sometimes it's beyond beer drinkers, and sometimes, I know we're not talking about kids, but I know a lot of people that don't really care. But honestly, there's a whole market that I feel is really untapped for kids and the NA sector that influences off of having a child-friendly brewery.
So real quick, Michael, what's the number one motivating factor for getting kids back to breweries? Please don't unmute. That's not a real question. Back to you, Erica. I would like to know the answer maybe in the future, but not today. Erica, for you though, I am curious. You were only open 6 days a month. Yeah. When did it was that always your business model, or no? So talk about kind of the shift there real quick.
So the real big plan, my husband and I both had 2 day jobs. This was just my husband's a hyperfixation. He loves just hobbies, extreme hobbies. So this was essentially just an extreme hobby. And we had 2 day jobs. We had no income. We have no investors. So we really just had to figure this place out. So we built this place off of 1.5 barrel brewery. You can't serve a whole lot of people with a big profit off of just making 1.5 barrels at a time. So we really had to home in and just see, okay, let's focus on building this place up. Let's hype it up. Let's make a lot of product. Let's put a lot of engagement out, build up this experience. We may be touching on this too quick, but the way we view this is it's kind of like a baseball game or a softball game, right? You work all week and you practice. Well, that's where our back of the house. We're always gauging 3 months, a quarter out. What beers, what events are going on. We work to streamline that in the back of the house, and then we focus out on the front of the house. So when we are open, it's a gamble. And I'm dealing with Mother Nature with us being a dominantly exterior venue. But when it hits, we can upwards see of 800 people here on a typical day, 400 on Saturdays, 500 Fridays. We really work to push out a lot of people, and creating a consistent experience each opening is really the key for us personally.
Awesome. Excited to hear more about your events shortly, but would like to welcome Chuck with Death of the Fox, not only a brewery, but also a coffee roastery. How's it going, Chuck?
Great. How you doing?
We're excited to have you because I think you're going to bring a unique perspective to this. I'm going to have you rapid fire a few questions for me real quick. Tell us a little bit more about the brewery, your target audience, and what you all offer.
So we opened about 8 years ago. We opened originally as a hybrid business, as a coffee house and a craft brewery. I will say in 2017, it was much more beer focused and heavy. We started, I'd say we're about 75% beer, maybe 25% coffee. But, I always felt the two really complemented each other well. Plus, I really wanted to fully utilize my space and create a brand around the synthesis between coffee and beer. And really both are Death of the Fox. It's not like one or the other. We truly are both. I think, the first couple of years, there was a bit of a learning curve for our customer. They weren't quite sure, like, okay, well, what do you mean? And of course, we also had we have the additional obstacle in the state of New Jersey where we can't serve food. Okay. So that is really,
that's a whole other panel conversation.
Yeah, that's a whole nother thing. But essentially, so, doing this, I think if we were in the West Coast or somewhere in the Pacific Northwest, it probably, wouldn't have been that disruptive or innovative at all. But the fact that we're in New Jersey, we were the first ones to do it. And we still are the only ones in the state who do what we do. The interesting thing is that after COVID, we opened up our roastery, and our roastery, now we roast, we roast coffee on site. The roasting has really kind of catapulted the business into a different area. The majority of our revenue is now coffee, not beer. But the beer is still great. We're still very much known for our beer, but we have expanded to another location that does not have beer. That's more of a true like coffee roastery with food. And we're working right now in a third location, which again will be more coffee centric.
Well, congrats on that success. I'm curious, what type of crossover do you see between the people who come for coffee and don't know you're a brewery, then also the people who come for beer and don't know you also operate as a coffee place?
It's usually a really pleasant surprise. I mean, people, we find that a lot of times people will come in and they will be especially if they're coming in from out of the region, they just see us as a brewery, and then all of a sudden they realize, wow, you have, let's say we can, they bring it in their family, they can get hot chocolate for the kids, and maybe there's a non-drinker in their party. And so now that opens up a bunch of options for them because, it's so typically it's a very positive response that we get, and they think, oh man, this is a really cool concept that you have.
Awesome. Well, I hope to visit someday, as I do everyone's spots here. But Michael, I want to move the conversation to you for a moment. You have lots of fascinating data, and your stuff shows that events are the #1 predictor of return visits. Talk to me a little bit more about that.
Yeah, absolutely. So for those unfamiliar with our data, the 30 seconds on what it is and how we gather it, we scrape information that already lives on the internet. So think reviews, social media comments, you name it. We gather all of that information and then build natural language processing models, which is just a fancy way to say that you leave a review that mentions a burger, an IPA, and you brought your dog. It tags all those individual elements. So we look at what gets mentioned, at what volume is it getting mentioned, what is being most mentioned overall. But then we added a filter for when people say they will be returning to a tap room. What are the things that are correlated to that actual indication that someone's coming back? So as a a real quick brief. The top thing that gets mentioned is beverages. The second most popular thing is food. Third is service. Fourth is staff. In the overall list, entertainment is sixth. Entertainment is getting mentioned sixth most often. When you filter for who is actually coming back to the tap room, who is indicating they will be back, the number one predictor that for any engineers potentially listening, we can talk about the models. We're using logistic regression. But if you don't need to know logistic regression to know that the result is entertainment is the number one predictor of somebody actually saying, yes, they will be coming back to experience your space again.
Michael, how has this changed over the years? Do you have any data on that or thoughts?
Yeah, absolutely. So entertainment reaching 1 is new. That's new for the Q1 2025. It's always been up there. It's always been, and it varies upon demographic too. It's different for men than it is women, but we're going to stick to overall for the purposes of this conversation. It was always about like 2 or 3, but it is number 1 now. And those things that it's taken over for that top spot are people interactions with staff and how quickly and efficiently people are getting their food and drink.
Awesome. I always love your data, Michael. So Erica, you've shared about the philosophy behind Cactus Land, but what are some of the events you're currently seeing success with? And on the flip side, what's not working?
Yeah, so what's really working for us right now, keep in mind, we do really focus to project these events out a quarter at a time. We really work to build the hype. We got to tell the story before it happens. But our number one event is our market day event. We personally have the infrastructure to be able to host parking, land, multiple bars. So we really can work to deal with high traffic events. We coordinate those all ourselves. So again, the number one is our market day event. Keep in mind what that does. You have your vendors that are patrons, and the spread of how that works socially, they're sharing organically without having to boost or pay for an event. That stuff is getting shared publicly. Our second one, I would think, is our car show. So Father's Day car show, probably 100 vintage cars here, hot sauce competitions, Junk Fest is kind of like a community.
What in the world is a Junk Fest? Yeah.
Think of it as like a community garage sale at a brewery. So it's, instead of it being like a market day, you can sell your like garage sale stuff. So it's kind of cool. What didn't really work for us? It did at first, but it just kind of slowly died. And I just feel like it's too much competition with other breweries, is trivia, Singo Bingo. It just kind of died for us. I know that it's a lot of patronage. I feel like you have your like loyals that really utilize that event, but for us, we're an outside venue. So some days it gets a little hot here and it's not very comfortable, but,
two follow-ups for you, because a lot of breweries, they'll do like the recurring events like weekly trivia and things like that, then often like larger quarterly like events. Mm-hmm. Do you find that in your event planning, all the events are just larger events because that's the type of event people are coming to when they come to Cactus Land?
Yeah, it grows and grows every year. I was really nervous about our St. Patrick's Day event because we hosted it on a Sunday versus actually hosting it on a St. Patrick's Day, versus last year it was actually on Sunday. But we aligned with a bunch of partners. So we had goat cuddles, we did green beer, had different kind of food trucks. So we're hyping up all of these different layers beyond just beer. So beer is just such a small layer of it. It's what is influencing others beyond beer to get them to our place. And goat cuddles, it attracts kids, brings the parents out to drink, the good food. So it's all of these multiple layers that really to get people influenced to drink a beverage.
And the longer you can get them to hang out, whether it's goat cuddling or whatever other crazy thing you're doing, the more money everybody's spending.
Yes. And keep in mind, I have to really work to pull them here because there's nothing else around here. They can't just go next door and go get a cocktail or something. So once I get them here, I really have to focus and drive what it is. It's beyond just having beer. Are you gluten-free? I have to have now wine. I have to have cider. I have to have NA beverages. Unfortunately, I don't have a liquor license, but I have to find something for everybody to keep them happy, to keep them staying and keep them paying.
Good stuff there. Now, Bronywn, how about you? You're not in the middle of nowhere. So what are you seeing as successful events at Greater Good?
Yeah, so I've actually only been in with Greater Good since February. So but them being one of our neighborhood breweries, over the years I've seen a lot with them as well. One of the biggest, coolest, successful events that the brewery does is their Imperial Beer Fest. They've been doing that now for a couple of years. Usually somewhere between 30 and 40 different vendors come down, set up in the parking lot, live music, food, all of that. And that's really fun. The first year I remember working it, and it was pretty messy also. But they've dialed that in, and it's a really cool event, and people just love to come. And like I was saying, Massachusetts has so many breweries, so it's really fun if you're a beer head to be there and just like within arm's reach of so many different awesome spots that you might not get a chance to go see. We do a lot of taproom events. We're open 6 days a week, so we're definitely one of those places that does like the weekly bingo, or trivia, all those kinds of things that you see a lot of other breweries doing. Try to kind of put a mixed bag in there too. A lot of live music on Fridays and Saturdays. Good local bands that people love to come out and check out. Again, the brewery isn't very large at all, the taproom space. So when people come in, what we definitely see is they're really committed to being there for that event or for that thing. If there's, all right, I'm going to be there for the music, they're there for the music. It's definitely not a big enough place where you can be like, oh yeah, that music's kind of cool in the background. Like, it's going to be in your face when you're there. So, and people are excited about that. And then again, we host a lot of private parties and events. Again, with the kitchen being available to us, we're able to also basically cater those events in-house. We have like an events manager at the taproom that works directly with folks. So they're getting, a lot of focus, a lot of attention. We always have a good game plan for the day of any sort of event. So, the floor staff, the bartenders, everyone kind of knows what they need to do to make everyone's time enjoyable, because that's also going on concurrently with just folks that are coming into the tap room, right? So it's always a fine balance to give people who are there for this special thing, birthday parties, baby showers, whatever it may be. We had a bridal shower the other day, giving them that focused attention, but without taking away from the focused attention you want to give your patrons, that whether it's the first time that they walk in or the 100th time that they walk in, that they're still feeling that connection to your space and into what we're doing.
No, cool. Thanks for sharing that, Bronywn. Chuck, how about you at your locations? What's the event makeup look like these days?
Yeah, I mean, we pretty much have something going on almost every night. Right now, I'd say the things that have been most successful is we pair with local restaurants to do. It's not necessarily a food truck, but like they actually bring in like a sampling of again, since we can't do food, but we can work with local food vendors, and basically they just kind of pay for the food separately and then pay for the drinks, and then they do like a setup. So that's been really nice. We do all the things that are mentioned, the live music, definitely very heavy on live music on the weekends, trivia, open mics. We have an event once a month that's very popular. It's a psychic and tarot card reading event, and also with local like pop-up shops. So that's very popular. We've been starting to host comedians, and comedians really, especially like national comedians that are hitting like the local brewery circuit, like they do brewery tours and that type of thing. That's a great thing to get involved with, and people, love being entertained and just and it's interesting because the way that we had a comedian in here a couple weeks ago, and the way that they they did the seating everywhere. The way a comedian is like, the first time we really had a national touring comedian, I set it up like a music venue, whereas, the seats are kind of further away because musicians don't like people too close. Comedians, exactly the opposite. They want people as close as possible, which was really, but that was a fantastic event. And the comedian literally did his stand up on a couple pallets, and that's all they wanted. So it was very, very bare bones on that. And our biggest event every year is our Harry Potter event. It's called Christmas at Hogwarts. We get about 500, 600 people through in 2 days. Everybody dresses up in robes. We have hanging candles everywhere. We're showing the music's playing, and it really is. It's almost like it's like a Universal Studios experience. Like you're transformed, and everybody really looks forward to that. And just trying to do fun things that engage, people from every level, older people, younger people, just making it a fun, family-friendly environment.
So I'm curious about the comedy show that you did for the first time recently. Was it a ticketed event, Chuck? And did you find that the audience, were they guests who had come before, or were you attracting a whole new audience coming specifically for that comedy show?
Almost a completely new audience, which was thrilling. And the nice thing about it is that we really, as opposed to some other events where we run directly, they just ran everything. They did the marketing, they did the ticketing. So really it was just, and really it wasn't anything where they even charged us. They made their money off tickets, and we made money off the beverages. And it's
one challenge I've heard about comedy shows, often the comedians they're going hard for like an hour or so, and people might be getting thirsty. Have you found a way to serve beverages during a comedy show without making it awkward? Or, what tips did you have to get people spending more while they're laughing?
Well, the nice thing about this comedian was that he's like, I will not be offended if what we're here today is to help this brewery and to help. I'm focused on helping independent breweries. So, he kind of put it right out there. I am not offended if you get up and grab yourself a beer. You might want to grab one for me when you get a chance. He strongly encouraged leaving outrageously big tips for my servers. It was a pleasant surprise. I was a little afraid of booking comedians, honestly, because I know that they're a crapshoot. But I think that if you get a chance, and for this one, it was a legit tour. Really funny guy, and therefore, I felt a lot more comfortable than just having, okay, we're going to have a comedy night. We're going to bring in like 4 or 5 people, local people who may or may not really be comedians. So that's what I've always been a little wary of.
Fun times. I went to my first brewery comedy show a couple months ago, and it was a blast. So for everyone here, you have so many unique kinds of events we've talked about so far. And Erica, we're going to hear from you first on this one, but you get a lot of people in on your busy days, and you probably have to serve them pretty quickly. But at the same time, it's your goal to build a relationship with them through your staff to get them coming back. Is there a single strategy or tip or something you train your team on to engage with guests during these events?
Yeah, that's a great question. So we do have 2 bars on site. They're very distant from each other, as well as they're very uniquely created. Again, we didn't know what we didn't know in the beginning, but we have a sales team and a pour team. So we have a team that just focuses on the transaction side, so just the sales with the customer, and then we have a team that's really just focusing on the pour side. For us, what I love when I visit breweries, and it's just super simple information. When your customer is creating a tab, our POS system gives you their information right then and there. So it's Joe Smith. What we love to do is for our staff to really slow down. Of course, lines are just going to happen. How fast is that line, of course, is the big question, but really making sure that you've got their name right there on that transaction. They created their tab. Hey, Joe Smith, thanks for coming. I hope you have a great time. Well, my pour team is pouring beers, really getting their order fixed. And then by the time they've had this quick conversation, gave them a really warm experience. They're shocked that they knew their name. That just creates just a good connection with our patrons. But yeah, we really have to work to slow the line down, but also keep it really fast. But I have a strategy with our team with the way we are structured. Again, it may not work for everybody. It's just the way our bar is built. But we do have a sales team and a pour team that helps really just focus and move those lines.
Knowing someone's name really goes a long way. Do you
really
have
does.
your team introducing themselves as well?
I guess like it just really depends. So you've got your two different kind of core customers. You've got your ones that are just regulars here all the time. You know their drink. You already know their tab name. But then you have your ones you're like, I'm not sure if you're a regular or if you're not, but hey, welcome in. Is this your first time here? And then, hey, I'm Felipa. I'm gonna be your bartender today. It really just depends on the transaction and how really confused or how engaging the customer is. We definitely do our best, but we have a really small bar. I mean, our bar is probably 400, 300 square feet. So it's a lot going on at once, but we definitely work to give them the experience that they desire, but really working to help move them and move in group.
Awesome. Thanks for sharing that. Bronywn, let's jump to you on this one. What's something maybe you do personally behind the bar or something Greater Good trains the staff to do to help build these relationships even during busy events?
So we have a restaurant. I would say we run very similar to that of a restaurant, to be honest. Unless you're seated at the bar, we do table service. We have a strong retail as well, for our 4-packs and things like that. So one thing that we do is we have a like a host stand. So when somebody's coming in, there's basically always like a greeter, right? Someone who's always there. Again, whether we know they're regulars or whether it's their first time. How's your day? What can I help you with today? Were you looking for a just doing that quick triage, doing that quick helping to just get people where they need to be. I think one of the things that is really strong for us, and especially because we're an Imperial brewery, not many people kind of understand what that is and can be a little bit timid with some of our beer, things like that. So the staff has a really good handle and a really good knowledge about our beer and is able to speak to it in a way that is very easy for folks to just kind of understand what our product is about. And that certainly goes a long way, just not just being knowledgeable about it, right? People always want to know, what you're doing, but we just try to make them comfortable with it. And I think that that's a big thing. When I'm behind the bar, I try to ascertain, what is it, kind of like to Michael's situation when he went to the wine bar, like, what is it that you like in beer? I know it's really heavy, but there's some, here's how we can make you understand it and hopefully you'll like it too, right? So just kind of getting at some of those things, and just trying to meet people where they're at, and we always are doing our best to, and also introduce them to new things, which is really fun as well. But again, like I said, we do have some other options for folks. So if they're maybe not thinking about drinking beer that day, we've got some other cool things for folks to do as well. So that's always nice.
So let's pretend I come into Greater Good. I'm like, why are all your beers such high alcohol? How do you explain that to the first time guest who's just trying to get the lay of the land?
Yeah, so we explain what an Imperial style is and why we do it. We're obviously the only brewery in Massachusetts doing it in the country. So it's really fun to have that talking point in of itself. Right away, people are really excited about, ooh, that's really cool. Or, oh, I've never heard of something like this. Or, oh, how do you get this 12% to not taste like your face is on fire? So those are the kinds of things that we're just getting that person to a space of understanding more than oh yeah, this is your typical juicy New England fruit bomb of an IPA, right? 200 breweries in Massachusetts make that beer. So it's just creating that little bit of difference between us, and and getting people excited about, oh, that sounds really interesting. That sounds really cool. And we have a really cool, our dark beers are awesome. They're heavy, but we have some really fun styles that our brewers love to put out there. So people definitely are going to get something that they're not going to get anywhere else.
Awesome. Thanks for sharing all that. Education's so important. Now, Chuck, I'm sure you have a great answer, but I have a great question for you first. So looking at your Google reviews, one of the top mentions that I see and that I love, it's flights. And upon reading them, you offer both coffee flights and beer flights. Is that correct?
And chai tea flights.
Tell me more about that.
And also hot chocolate flights. So yeah, flights. I mean, flights are just fantastic. Number one, any brewer will tell you from a margin perspective, but also it really, our ability to be able to offer, truly innovative and, fun coffee flights, and both coffee flights we do hot. So we do lattes and we also do cold brew as well. So people really love the flights, and that's something that's all over our marketing. If you notice, it's on our website. If we have pictures, we really try to include flights because it's one of the top questions that we get. And really, and it's so common, especially here on a weekend, to see somebody drinking a beer flight and right next to it a coffee flight. And a lot of times they'll move from one to the other, and it's just. It is something that we have great fun with. We're constantly throwing out new options, and I think it's I tell people flights aren't just about beer. You can get as creative as you'd like to be.
How are you using flights as an educational opportunity?
Well, you know what? I always tell people, if the first time, especially if they're newbies and they're kind of torn, I do two things. So we have like kind of like a wheel of beer, like a spinning thing where, it goes around. So if you're really indecisive, for your indecisive people, you have two options. You spin the wheel of beer and let fate decide what beer you're going to drink. Or if you want to have some type of control, but you're torn between two or three, definitely get a flight. And then we'll explain the different styles and just kind of the different notes and things, and how also we recommend tasting the flight, going from darker, going from lighter to darker and that type of thing. So there's really with flights, it's all fun and it's all profit. I love it.
No, I love that. So I made you talk about that one somewhat. Is there something you like to train your staff on to better engage with guests? We have a particular story around, I think it's about creating a story and what's kind of special about your room or your brand. And for us, Death of the Fox is really based on the history of the area, which is fox hunting. We are the headquarters. The Death of the Fox was the headquarters of the first hunting club in America, which was right outside Philadelphia, right here in South Jersey. And the meeting place for that hunting club was the Death of the Fox Tavern, which is almost 300 years old. And so what I try to, somehow with my staff, I try to work that in there, because especially people coming from out of the area, they're really curious about the name. Oh, is it just random? How did you come up with that? And, there's a story there that's kind of cool. And of course, as a history buff, I love, being able to, let people know about, the deep and really interesting history of this region. So I really try to emphasize that. And that's ingrained with all of our marketing and all of our art all throughout the space. It all has to do with our fox hunting heritage and history. I'm telling that story. So important. Now, Michael, you unmuted because you knew I was going to call on you. Give me some of your insights, what you see Taprooms doing to just better engage with customers and build those relationships.
Yeah, it's one thing that truly Erica, Chuck, and Bronywn have all mentioned today. I'm also going to tie in the question that we got live from Jenny Jones and really put a bow on all of these threads. And I promise it touches on your question too, Andrew. But the breweries across all of the data that I'm seeing on a day-to-day basis, there are three ways to do things. There is a good, there is a better, and there is a best. It is good to have trivia. It is better if it is sitcom trivia or Friends trivia. It is best if it is Friends trivia on the 10-year anniversary of this particular episode and this person was born just down the road. And the connection and the story is what people are remembering from their taproom visits. And it is, you really have to be at a minimum in that better category. You could say it's no longer enough to have trivia. Trivia could be great. It could tail off. How do you get trivia to that better and then ultimately that best state? Erica, when you were talking about the car show, that's already in the better category because that's so unique and would be specific to your space. How do you make that best? It's on Father's Day. That's awesome.
A layer on a layer on a layer, and you have to influence it beyond just beer. It's multiple layers of influencing people to come out, and that's one of them. Yeah, thank you.
Yeah, absolutely. So, Andrew, touching on that, what's actually driving people to come back? It's the story that they can go and tell their friends. Bronywn mentioned earlier in the conversation about the private events, and maybe you have one person that says, "Oh, come to Greater Good," and you're bringing in 20 people, whether it's for a work happy hour or whatever that might be. Guaranteed 10 of them are brand new. And if you can make a connection with those 10 people using events as a vessel to reach new customers, and that only happens with layering. I think even now, you're having game night, that's pretty standard. What kind of game? And is that game popular in your region? And there's just so many different ways. But I would say that the most important thing is getting that audience that is big enough within your local region. I think Eric also mentioned like schools, or somebody mentioned schools and teachers and whatever that might be. It's going to be different based on your backyard. But mastering your backyard and finding those individual groups and getting one to bring in 7 when 5 of them haven't been before.
And Michael, you've touched on it. It's about knowing your audience too. You just can't find this super weird, unique event and just do it. You have to make sure it kind of speaks to the people who are coming to your taproom, or the people you want to get to your taproom, and then successfully market to them to make it a success.
Certainly. And that just comes with how active are you in the local community? Chuck has restaurants coming in to Death of the Fox with the food. Bronywn at Greater Good, they are so active in the Worcester community. And there's just so many different ways to do it. And the more engaged you are with the community, the more natural it's going to be to identify those opportunities.
So far, we've talked a lot about events. We've talked a lot about your staff. But what about your spaces? What are you all doing with your spaces that makes it overly comfortable to people and makes them want to return? I'd love to go through each of you kind of sharing, what you're doing, Erica, at Cactus Land, that's just inviting the people outside of your beer, outside of the events, outside of the people, just the general space and design of it that's making people feel comfortable.
Yeah, I feel like everybody's kind of really touched on everything, but really bringing in this all in a weekend. It's all about events. We have multiple events on top of events. I feel as if the number one thing we've done in 2025 is creating a space that is rentable. Michael talked about being able to only have to engage with one person that said, "Hey, I'm going to have a birthday party here." Well, you only had to deal with one person that brought 100 people. We have 2 spaces here now that we have been really working through our website to basically be its own search engine, its own employee, pushing that out and basically bringing people in through our space. But live music, new beers every single opening, new slushies. A lot of the time, I have 4 double barrel wine slushie machines on site for both bars. We do wine slushie flights, beer flights, really just having to be not only an experienced, great staff, all new products that engage with other people. You have dietary restrictions, working with new food trucks every single opening, and really building this up and projecting it to the public And if I could say one thing, if people are not doing with these events, is really engaging with your local community and working through Facebook, through like your local, let's say San Antonio Let's Chat community, your neighborhoods. Those are your core audience right there. Get that stuff, share, be a part of those little Facebook groups and share all of that to get those people to come in, because it's about everything these days. And you have to excel in every sector. It's not just about beer. Like, it's not just about liquid. It's anything and everything. And that's where we really focus on.
One thing that stood out to me was what you just said is be rentable, which I really like. And to go to you, Bronywn, on this, I know you all were mentioning a minute ago, you have a birthday party over there, your regular guest over there. How do you accommodate all kinds of people, different events, public, private, all at the same time, and making everybody feel like it's their space?
Yeah, so our space is definitely small. One thing that's cool though, you know, I could go to like so many breweries and have the best time at all of them, because they're all so different, right? Even the ones in the same towns, you know, there could be 6 breweries in your town. They're all going to be different. Our space is like just physically the way it kind of is, almost like a bit of a horseshoe or an L, like in like the taproom space. So we're able to pretty easily, and the way our bar is, pretty easily section off the folks that are going to be kind of in the party space, we would call it. We're giving access to everybody else who needs to be around the bar or coming in to order drinks, or then still seating, you know, still sitting at our normal sort of restaurant area. So that could just be a very lucky, happy surprise for us. Also, being a little smaller with the taproom space, all of our tanks and everything are like literally within arm's reach. So when you come in, you're just like, you're really sort of engulfed in the whole brewery experience. If you want to, like, you're one of those people that loves to just sit at a bar and watch our brewers up on the brew deck, you know, working as you're drinking the beer. That's really awesome and powerful too. One thing I also wanted to touch on, and Erica certainly said, is knowing the community and knowing the different things that the community needs. Worcester is a really large city. It's actually the 2nd largest city in New England, but it has a neighborhood feel to it, and anybody will tell you that. So when we know that there are certain events that certain clubs or organizations or foundations in our city are putting on, we reach out and say, hey, what can we do to be a part of that? You know, and sometimes that's not in our physical space. That's us going to set up being like an exclusive beer vendor somewhere, you know, things like that. That in of itself is really, it's fun for us, and it's great for our community to see businesses out there reaching out and wanting to be engaged and wanting to do things. I think that's something you can't discount, which is really cool. So I think just sort of that combo of when you're in the tap room, you know you're in the Greater Good Tap Room, and it's not just because of the beer, but it's the feeling. And we hope that we can kind of share that same feeling as, you know, oh yeah, you see us out at a tasting, or you see us out at this community event serving beer. You can kind of get that from all angles, and that piece of community, I think, is really important.
Awesome. Thank you, Bronywn. Chuck, we'll go to you then end with one final question. So Chuck, I mean, you operate as a coffee shop, you operate as a brewery. People can do both at the same time, you know, but for people, say, coming during the morning hours, is there anything you do to make it feel more like, let's say a coffee shop and give it that vibe? And how does it change throughout the day to keep your space unique?
Yeah, you know, it's interesting because as we're kind of the opposite from the last from what Bronywn was saying. You know, we don't show our tanks at all. I mean, a lot of people don't even like. We look and feel mostly like a coffee house, right? We have a lot of live edge wood. We have leather couches. We have curtains with like private sections. You know, and one of the things that was interesting, we used to have a lot more tables before COVID. And we took away probably half of our tables. You know, we probably have about 10 out there right now. We used to have like, you know, 17, 18. And I found that I didn't put them back because the open space was actually really cool. It was much more relaxed, breathable room. And so, that was a little bit of like, and that, again, that's counterintuitive because you would think, well, why wouldn't you want to pack as many people in as possible? Well, I could, if we're really packed, I can always bring out more tables from the back. But our default is really like our seating is about 50, and we can expand up to 70, 80 as needed. But, I really feel like, that was another silver lining from our COVID experience. But yeah, to make it as comfortable as possible, it's rustic. And again, like, we just kind of went against the concept of, yes, we are a brewery. Everybody, most people, but if you walked in, a lot of people are like, well, where's the tank? So you guys are a brewery, or it's in the back. You can come take a look. And it's a pretty big brewery, but you wouldn't know it, and that's just kind of our brand. You know what I mean? So I don't think there's any real one way to do it right. I think that, based on the variables that you have as a business, you can, and the fact is we get a robust morning business. And, if we're brewing in the back, I don't want to disrupt the customers with that. So I think that's worked out quite well.
It kind of speaks to what Michael was talking about, layers upon layers, which seems to be a theme of today.
Right.
So, Chuck, we're going to end our final question. We're going to start with you on this one. Erica, you get to go last this time. So, Chuck, the question is, everybody on these sessions, we want to make sure they leave with something actionable. And Erica gave a great example earlier, so you can't use this in a moment, Erica. But she'd like her staff to call guests by name. That's something specific people can take away from today. Is there any specific, insight you want people to take from today and try at their tap room?
Yeah. So I would say, it's interesting. I think that it's really you need to constantly be aware of just when I walk into my tap room, I just can't help but look at three things. Right? It's music, it's lighting, and it's what we have going on, on our TVs at any given time. And I think those little things matter, right? If the lighting's off and if it's at 8:00 at night and your lighting is blaring, right? And it's not that affects the vibe, right? And, for us, so we, as the day evolves, we kind of evolve with the day. So, that is something just very personally of when I walk through the door, I'm super hyper aware of what we call vibe, and understanding that change is constant, and you should be just kind of changing your space and making sure that you're aware of those things like sound levels, and making sure that something crazy isn't showing on the TV that's going to like politics or something like that. You don't want to isolate your customers in any way.
Good stuff there, Chuck. So for anyone interested in learning more about Death of the Fox or following you all, where can they do so?
So we're at deathofthefoxbrewing.com. We're on Facebook, Instagram, and we also have our second location, which is at Rowan University. That's right in South Jersey. We're about 20 minutes outside Philadelphia, and that's highgroundscoffeeroasters.com.
Awesome. Well, thanks, Chuck. You nailed it. Little things do make a big difference. Now, Bronywn, your turn. What do you hope people take from today? Any actionable items you want them to take back to their tap rooms?
I think one thing for me, and I try to remember this when I'm behind the bar, and it's just so simple, but it's easy to forget, especially in the service industry, is just greeting everybody warmly with a smile and how's your day. That you might not win over everybody, but I think it's just like it just sets you up for being able to give someone that like giving experience that we try to do, and just give them that knowledge that you're that comfort space, right? Even just within yourself by your tone and your body language and all of those things. So I know it's so basic, but I think that one goes like such a long way.
No, I'll agree with you so much. That initial greeting is so important to set the tone for a visit. Great one there. And Bronwyn, for people looking to follow Greater Good or learn more.
Sure. Yeah, same. Facebook or Instagram account is very lively and a lot of fun. And yeah, I would say those. And then greatergoodimperials.com is our website.
Awesome. Thanks again. Michael, your turn.
Bronwyn took it. Say hi to people, give them a warm greeting, and a piece of data behind that. Out of all negative experiences, imagine everybody in the room that has ripped you to shreds on Yelp or Google or what have you. You can get rid of 30% of those people with a positive first impression. And that is just giant and something that is so understated. Nothing additional there. Yeah, it's the art of the first impression.
I'll let it slide. So, Michael, anyone looking to learn more about Craft Beer Advisory Services, where should we go?
You can go to craftbeeradvisoryservices.com. We are active on Instagram, Facebook, and LinkedIn for occasional dripping of insights as well.
Always appreciate the data and insights you put out. Thank you.
Yeah.
Now, Erica, you've had a lot of time to think. Are you ready?
I feel like this one is for, I feel like a lot of our brewery owners here. Just remember, a reminder that beer is beyond just four walls anymore. I think we came out of COVID really understanding that our patrons are getting bored. We have to do more, and be better for them, and put yourself in your patron's perspective all the time. Maybe go walk your brewery, feel the vibe, feel what your patron is feeling. Is it a safe place? Chuck mentioned it. Is it good lighting? Is the music, do you enjoy the music? Like, within who you're hiring, and in putting yourself in such, not niching yourself out, making sure everything is going to be very welcoming to each type of patronage that you are bringing into your tap room, and really knowing your audience and owning your audience in 2025.
You have those good one-liners you've ended like so many of your comments with. I love them. Well, everybody, you've made it through day one of the Spring Virtual Conference. We really appreciate you being here. Hope from this session and all the others that you've tuned into, there's something you can take back to your business. So Erica, Michael, Bronwyn, Chuck, and all the other speakers who spoke today, we really appreciate you all. Thanks, everybody, for tuning in, and we'll see you tomorrow. Cheers, everybody.
Thank you.
Thank you. Bye.